Welcome back to Uncovered, everyone. Today is an episode out there for all the business geeks or all the business wannabe geeks. We have a super special guest on today. Her name is Kristy Sellars. I feel like almost everybody is going to know our guest today. She's an amazing pole dancer. She is Australia's Got Talent winner as well.
Yes.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But firstly, just welcome to our podcast, Kristy.
Welcome to Uncovered.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries. So like I was saying just before, we're going to talk about all things business. So this episode is called Poleprenuership. I was practicing that before and I'm like, I knew I'm not going to be able to say it without making a joke.
So entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
but for the pole world.
For pole. So for those out there that are interested in it, maybe are wanting to dip their toe into some sort of business in the pole world, this is the episode for you. We're going to sort of share our knowledge. We're going to talk to Kristy about what she's done and how she's sort of done it. And yeah, get the knowledge shared around. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, I guess, in the pole world? Yeah.
Sure. So basically, I'll give you the short version.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, how do I ask this without you?
Yeah, I know, so many things. So I started pole about 14 years ago and fell in love with it. My background before that was dance, like all styles of dance. So I kind of tried pole because I just wanted something different to add. But then I was like, oh, this is way better. So then after a couple of years, I was already like teaching regular dance, so it wasn't a big jump for me to start teaching pole dance. And I basically had the idea, I was like, oh, I should open a studio in my hometown, like there's nothing there. Anyway, bought X stages, like 8 of them, and I asked my old karate instructor if I could use the dojo on the weekends to run pole dancing classes. So I just hired that space on the weekends, and then it like grew a lot pretty fast. And so I ended up going into like a permanent building myself, which was a big step. Fast forward, I opened another location in Ballarat, and then a couple of years later, I had some of the students from there like asking if they could open a PhysiPole as well. So that's how the franchise began. And now the franchise, we have 17 locations in Australia in 5 states. So that's pretty cool. And then from there, like the franchise itself has grown so much, like there are so many veins of it, if that makes sense. Like we have our own clothing line, we have our own, like all the things that we do within our community. It's just such it's like a cult. Like got everything. You always describe pole dancers like that. I feel like the whole thing is just like a cult experience.
It's your own little world. Like, I was explaining to someone the other day, and I'm like, we have our own little celebrities, we have our own little dramas. It's just like, and I'm like, nobody knows about it. Events, everything, your own little communities. It's funny.
So I just finished my MBA last year. It's almost been 12 months now, and there is an entrepreneurship subject in it. And I had this concept that I'm like, I'm just going to throw it out there and see, because you have to work on something and it's always about your business or your work. And I had this concept and I introduced through that like the word Poleprenuership, and people were like, what the hell is a Poleprenuership? So all these like, very intelligent people who are very corporate, generally speaking, are sitting there listening to a presentation about pole dancing and Poleprenuership and all just going.
And I bet you they enjoyed it the most.
Oh, you should have seen the boys in the front, because it was a presentation and their smiles were very, very big, but it was hard. Like they were trying to control it. It was it's my most interesting presentation for sure.
Yeah, nice. I'm sure it would have. Yeah. So I didn't finish the story actually, but so then, we've sort of been in the way of like developing different things across the time within PhysiPole, but then we were having problems like with grip, getting grip, finding a good grip, as we all were a couple of years ago. And my partner was like, why don't we just make our own? And I was like, can we do that? Can we do that
thing?
I love that.
So we like hired this team of chemists, and it took about 8 months, maybe 9 months, to get the formula right and all of that. And so we created Enviro grip, and then I I made it its own brand because I was like, I know that we're not the only ones having this problem, so other studios probably will need this too. So I made it, its own standalone brand. And obviously what's different about it, not just the formula, but the tube itself is biodegradable. So we're the first in the world to do that, which is really cool. So 6 to 10 years it'll break down as opposed to 450 years for the plastic alternative. And now what's even better is just grab one. So I've got it in my hand.
Do we have props?
Show and tell. We love show and tell.
This is for the people who watch us on YouTube.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen it before, this is Enviro Grip. And so now what we used to do was the material itself is essentially plastic at the beginning. Then it gets mixed in the formation stage with this additive that's like a biodegradable additive, so it like eats the plastic, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
But instead of making like virgin plastic and then adding the additive, what we're doing now is taking the plastic out of the environment, like collected like plastic from the oceans, from the forests, wherever, and then using that and adding the additive. So it's like
good. Even better.
Not just neutral, it's like reverse waste.
So good.
How did you even come up with that concept?
Because I just, like, for me, I've had the studios for so long and I see how many of these things that we go through every year, and it does bother me. And I'm definitely not like the most, everyone can always do better with eco-friendly things like that. So I'm not being like, oh, I know exactly all the best ways. But where we can make a difference, we should. And I thought if we're going to go down this path, we're going to be selling thousands and thousands and thousands of these things. I don't want to be contributing to more of the problem. So how can we, do that? And then it just kind of, the brand has a life of its own now. Like every decision I make for the brand, I think about the brand as its own identity, if that makes sense. Like, what kind of bags would the brand order? So they're all like dirt bags made out of dirt, and they're compostable, which a lot of people are using. We love your
packaging.
Now.
We have.
Yes, we have it in the studio, and when it comes, it is definitely in comparison to some of the other ones.
It looks nicer as well. Like I think so.
100%.
Yeah, and I take a lot of pride in that. And then also like even the display units, I was like, it's like a cardboard box thing that like this was from my speaker, so that's not our displays. But I was like, we need to have. Lucky I'm in my office, I can just grab all this stuff right here. So we got these custom made, so it's like a single use item, and this is like a sustainable timber farm that we get the timber from, and then we have it custom made here in Ballarat. So even just stuff like that, and making the decision to be like, okay, well, what would the brand choose for this? And we're not perfect, but it's
all the little steps you take, right, that contribute. It's those 1%ers rather than trying to make huge changes, making small incremental change. But I know when we got that and you sent the stand, I was like to my brother-in-law, I'm like, Shane, I need you to make me more of these for all the other groups I have. Because it was different, and it was nice, much better, and like things actually stay in their place. So
I can send you some more if you need more.
Well, we've since changed our display, so I don't need more, but thank you. But so it's little things like that. But I want to go back to, you went through setting up 8 X-Poles just to get your business started. What was like?
So that's every Sunday. Then you had to take them down after.
Yeah.
So did you how many classes did you do?
So I went in on Friday after school, and my brother, my sister, and my dad helped me, and we'd set them up. It'd take about 2 or 3 hours to set them all up. I'd run 3 classes on the Friday night, 5 classes on Saturday, 5 classes on Sunday, which I don't know how I did, because
I was like, that's a lot.
I'm trying to fill Sunday classes now. Like, no one wants to come. Anyway, and then we'd pack them up on the Sunday night and the dojo had those connector rubber mats. So we had to take all those up and use the wooden floor under, and then put them all back down after we finished. It was crazy.
That is what was going through your mind at that time? Was it just because it was like, I see this pain point and I love this so much, I want more people to experience it? Like, that's a lot of effort. And some people, like, getting started in business is a lot of effort, let's be real. But like, that's huge.
Not really for me, because I don't know. I don't have a problem working my ass off at the beginning if there's and I'll get to like Polescription in a minute, and the brands like Enviro Group and stuff like that. At the beginning, if there is a path to make it like more hands-free and make it a business that's a bit more can run by itself, then I will like go to town, because most people don't realize this, but like you have a job your whole life, and you're trading your time for money. You're trading your time for money. And you only have a limited amount of time, right? So you can only make a certain amount of money. And obviously none of this is about money. Like, yes, it's important to be able to do the things that we're doing and grow and all of that, but I shouldn't make it sound like that's the main focus. Obviously none of us would do pole dancing.
No, exactly. There's easier ways to make money.
Exactly. But having said that, I really genuinely love entrepreneurship and business, and I loved it before it was a trendy thing. Like, it's just in my bones. I love making something from nothing and then growing it into something bigger. I don't know. I think I see problems and I see the solutions for the problems, and then I want to solve those problems. And it's so annoying because I literally have a new idea every single day and I have to control myself. Like, no, we are not.
Sounds familiar.
It's so hard.
It's hard. It is, like, especially when you're like immersed in it, and like, as you would be like in the studios and you're seeing all these things come up and you're just like, man, if all you did was this, and this, that would save that problem. But then it's like, holy shit, to be able to build that, it would take me X amount of time, but I've still got this over here. And I 100% am with you here.
Well, yeah. So with the stages, while it was a huge effort, it meant it was a gateway. Like, it allowed me to start, it allowed me to build the base. And if I had enough people, I knew I'd be able to go into somewhere full time. So all I had to do was do it until I hit that milestone. And I did. So,
and I guess when you have that in mind from the start as well, then it's even more motivating to spend those couple hours setting up, because you're like, I know that if I get to...
I don't think I thought that. I think I was just like, everyone's going to love pole dancing so much. Like, I was just so, and still am, like, just addicted to it. And I was just so excited for people to try it. I think it was a couple of months later that I was like, oh, this could be a thing. Like,
So how long were you operating? Like, how many months were you operating, or years were you operating as this X stage business?
Well, about 4 months, and then I moved into a permanent thing, but I took the stages into that. So I didn't set up, not like what we have now. Oh my God. So I didn't set up like permanent fixture poles. They were still just the stages, but they just stayed set up the whole time.
It reduced your operation time. Like, they're there, I can leave them, and I don't have to worry about the 3 hours of...
We always
it was crazy because it was the tall ones off the ground.
It's just... I was going to say, we always talk about, like, when me and Steph first started, like, I started on the 50 mil, like, stainless steel ones. Some of them didn't spin, some of them did. And I was just like, like telling our students these days, I'm like, you guys have it good. I started on this. And now I'm like, oh, maybe I had it good, because there was people that started on X stages in, like, warehouses and all that sort of stuff. Like,
that was us.
At least I had air conditioning when I started.
We didn't have that.
Yes, I think I had air conditioning, but I was reading you went somewhere where it was just a lady and with 2 poles in her garage.
Yeah. So when I first started, it was obviously a long time ago. There weren't many places doing it, but I found this chick near Williamstown, I reckon, in Melbourne, and she was just doing it out of her garage. And it was all right, but it was set up for just 2 poles. And she had a couple of shoes on the wall and like 2 grips or something. It was like a tiny studio. It was so nice. I don't know about her teaching methods, because she like taught me a back crucifix or like a cross leg release in my first lesson. And I nearly died. And my leg, I was like in so much pain. Oh my God. But anyway, she injured herself not long after I started with her, few lessons. And then she was like, oh, there's other studios like in the city. There was Divas and a couple of others. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll go there. So I just kind of like floated around and tried them all out.
Wow.
And so you've got 17 locations now. Is there a studio around the world that you know of that has more than 17 locations?
No, not that I know of. I think we are the biggest, but actually, no, because I think there's Aradia Fitness. I think they're in Canada and the US, but I think they have maybe 12. I don't know. I don't really look.
That's a massive milestone as well, and that's a huge thing, and especially to be like originated in Australia. Like that's really exciting.
Do you have any global locations yet, like international?
No, not yet. So
not yet.
This was something like we did have the opportunity to do.
Yeah,
but with franchising, it does. Like it's a huge undertaking, especially to go international. And I sat down with Janine Ellis, the founder of Boost Juice, and she was so nice. Like she let me go and sit with her for like an hour and have a chat. Wow. And she was doing a similar thing. I mean, obviously they're massive, so I'm not comparing myself at all, but she also has 3 kids. She started her business in a similar age that her kids were to what mine were. And I was asking her about like, okay, well, when you decided to go international, how was the impact on your family, and how did it change how you could be a mum? And from the conversation with her, my partner and I, we just sort of decided like, you don't get those years back, and we don't want to miss them. I don't want to spend, like, we still may do it. I'm not taking it off the table, but for me, it's not something that is going to fulfill my life right now. I don't need to, you know?
Yeah. It's like it's an idea that is probably, it's a nice to have, but when you take into account like, all the things that are associated with it, and then like my thoughts are like the legals with other countries and those types of things, it probably doesn't exactly weigh up to be worth it at this point in time.
Yeah, and especially now with COVID and whatnot, like we've got quite a few of the current franchisees, so they don't all just own one. Quite a few of them own 2 or 3 studios.
That's pretty cool.
So there's a few of them still want to open more in Australia, so we'll sort of go that way first. And yeah.
Oh, taking over Australia. You said 5 states. That's pretty impressive. So what states do you not have a PhysiPole in?
Northern Territory, WA.
Oh, yeah.
Is that it? That's it.
Is there 7?
I was thinking about it. I'm like, Queensland.
Yeah, that's it.
Tasmania.
So what made, like, so you've obviously got a dance background, but what do you think made you passionate about business?
Passionate about business. Well, my parents had a like a food van business when I was growing up, and my dad, God, we got jibbed so bad, but he'd come home with all the 5-cent pieces like in this massive bag, and he'd like tip them out on the table. He'd be like, all right, I'll give you $3 if you count all these into the banking bags. We were there for hours like doing this.
$3, that's great.
But I think I saw like, I don't know about that business model, I have to say, Dad, if you're listening, because you work like ridiculous hours, long hours, such stressful environments. You're away from your home. You're dealing with drunk people. Like it's just, it's not. And to be fair, like Dad now has, like my parents split and Dad sort of kept the business, but then he added big screens. So when you go to like horse races or Grand Prix, the big screens, he has those. So it's much better because you're just driving the screen there, setting it up, and then you just wait and then you go. Yeah. So it's nowhere near the level of like, and with food, like you've got to order the stock and it's got to be refrigerated. Like there's so many moving parts.
Safety, handling and everything from it.
Yeah. Plus staff, like around the place because they would travel, like they were usually gone on the weekends, and Mum would always come back with a bag of 6 hot jam donuts. Well, they were probably cold by the time we got them, but it was great, and we were like ready for them as soon as she got back.
That's sweet.
So I guess, I was exposed to business from a young age, but I left school at the end of year 10 to do a diploma in performing arts. I knew I wanted to dance, and I just always kind of didn't see myself doing the conventional like 9-to-5 type of thing, because I was teaching dance in the evenings, and then I was like, okay, if I could make like $600 a week, I could just teach dance like for my whole job. I didn't understand like that you need more money than that because you've got to pay tax and things. Like I didn't really, I was like 19 and I was like,
it's a start. It's a start.
Yeah, it's a start. And I think, but the thing that shows is that I looked at what do I need to do to be able to do or have the lifestyle that I want to have. And when I was younger, like when you're teaching dance, it's long hours into the night. It's sort of similar with pole classes now, but hip hop particularly tends to just be really late kind of hours. And obviously now being a mum, like that's the opposite of what my day is. So yeah, I think it was just because I saw that I didn't want to do other things. I wanted to do that. And then I was essentially working for myself as a subcontractor for different studios teaching. And then, like I had a couple of side retail jobs along the way. But then when I opened the studio in Warrnambool, like the first PhysiPole, that was really, I guess, when I started. But it was, the whole thing has been bootstrapped. Like it's all just been step by step by step, bit by bit. Like in Warrnambool, I was like, oh, they need shorts. I should get some stuff for them to buy.
Put some things on my wall. Like,
I didn't have a wall, but a table. I had a table. I had like, and then I bought a portable wardrobe rack.
Yeah.
And I just had that set up. And then it kind of grew a bit more and a bit more, you know?
And I think like thinking about that, when people start thinking about starting businesses or going in and doing something, especially they're going to go, generally speaking, we go to things we're passionate about. So there's so many pole dancers out there who are like, how can I do this like all the time? How can I make this my full-time job? Teaching, it's going to be really bloody hard on your body. You can do it full time, but it would be really challenging. So they start looking at businesses owning studios. But yeah, the upfront, you don't have to go to that perfect level straight away. It can be incremental and you can just get started.
Yeah. And I think something really important to think about is that if you love pole dancing and you love teaching, doesn't mean you're going to love owning a studio. It probably means the opposite, because you have to love business to love a studio.
I would agree with you. And like, I know since owning my studio, like I don't get that much time to actually pole. So, but I love business, so I get really excited about the other things. But there is a lot of things I do not get excited about, and it's really challenging. It's like a lot of labor of love, as well as trying to balance the elements of business.
And you see everything. Like a lot of people have asked me, like, oh, are you going to open your own studio? And I'm like, no thanks. I'll just work for someone else, because I don't have that business mind like you guys do. So, but
That's smart.
Yeah. I'm like, I'll find other ways to make my full-time job in pole that's not owning the studio. But you see, like, I guess every side of it, like the good, the bad, the ugly, like every part of it, owning a business. And I sort of see the back end of things. I have had my own online training as well, business, I guess. And yeah, I'm just like, oh, I just don't like working for myself. I see the potential, and my mum has always been work for herself. My dad's been always the opposite, work for someone else. So I think I've taken more after my dad, for the moment anyway. But yeah, you do
know
see
what the
everything.
future holds.
So you do have to really love it, like you were saying, Kristy, to want to do something in it. Otherwise, you'll lose. And you see so many people that lose their passion for pole when they do too much of it, or studios that shut down because the owner's just too tired and just run out of ideas. Like, you do have to keep things fresh and keep like growing
and you have
in
to
the
keep
pole
the
world
energy
as well.
going as well. And I think my husband and I have had a lot of discussions recently about how it often gets forgotten in the pole world that we're businesses. Like, I think that's probably been my biggest challenge and realization as a new studio owner. It's like, I'm still a business and I still need to do enough to keep my studio afloat, because if I can't, then I can't keep my studio there.
This is such an interesting thing. And it's like studio owner guilt. Like,
Yes.
you should feel guilty if you're making money off your studio. Like, it's a very odd thing. And people are very quick to say, like, oh, you're only interested in money. Like, no, that's not the case, because as we said before, if that's what you were only interested in, you would do something else. You wouldn't do this.
I wouldn't have left my job to come and do this. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. But I think, we sort of say these things like, oh, as long as like the studio is making enough money to like cover itself, whatever, but that's not good enough. Like, you're working your ass off. You should be able to be rewarded financially to be able to support your family as well. And, be able to enjoy your life and go places you want to go, and have the work you've put into your studio be able to fund that. Like, there is nothing wrong with that. I think people associate like, oh, if you're hating your job, then you should be getting paid like really well for it. But if you like your job, you should essentially be doing it for free. It's so wrong. Like, it needs to stop. And I think students can take that on board as well. Like, just because you see a studio owner being really passionate, and this is what happens. Like, a lot of people who are passionate about pole start a studio. It's a hobby business. It's not a real business, and that sounds harsh, but they go into it because they love it so much and they just want to share. That's why I started it.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about anything when I started. It only like developed, and I'm just lucky with the franchise that I have an amazing team for the head office group and the franchisees. Like, they're so incredible. Like, they really, really are. They've created these individual communities in their own locations that it's so much bigger than me. Like, I may have started it, but these guys, it has a life of its own. It is its own living, breathing organism. Like, it's crazy. But I do agree with you so much. And I think people need to be happy to see, like, I saw that Canetta down here, she just announced they're opening a new location. That's so good, because number one, great for her, great for the new franchisee. But number two, how good is that for the industry that there's like confidence after these last couple of years, that there's confidence in the industry and in the economy to be able to open a new business, and a pole dancing business at that. And of course it's going to be great because she, her brand is lovely. But I see stuff like that. I think we need to cheer each other on more
100%.
Rather than being like, oh, someone else opened a studio. Like, just because someone else opens a studio near you doesn't mean you offer the same thing at all.
You're speaking to my heart right now.
Survive?
Exactly. Yeah. And so many gyms that are really close to each other, like they're across the road. But I can resonate 100% with a lot of that. And I think that there is that scarcity mindset of like, oh, if I don't do it, then, and like, if I don't get to it and I have it, like, there's not enough. Abundance is what I'm trying to get to. There's like, we all think that there's not enough, but there's plenty. Like, and the more people in pole, the better off every single one of us are.
Yeah.
So
the more studios there are, the more it appears mainstream, and people will be like, oh, it's pole fitness. Like, it's not just like, oh, there is a pole studio like down the road, around the corner, down and like, it has to, like, they need to be everywhere.
I agree.
That's my opinion anyway.
They will. They're getting there.
We are getting there slowly.
We're trying.
Surely. So we have like digressed a little bit. Like, we're like all great business chat. But coming back to you and the businesses you operate. So you currently have PhysiPole and Enviro Co. Are they the only two?
So it was Enviro Grip at the beginning, and then because I wanted to branch into like clothing and that sort of thing, I needed to sort of change the parent name that would encompass more than just Grip. So now it's the Enviro Co. And obviously we're doing clothing and other products, basically innovative fitness products, mostly based around pole, but people are buying them who aren't just pole dancers.
That's awesome.
Actually, we get the lawn bowls ladies come in and buy this for their lawn bowls because they're like, it makes our hands grippy. It's not too hard.
That's good.
Yeah, and then off the it's still under Enviro Co, but kind of its own new little brand is Polescription, which is
yes, how
a
exciting!
new one. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Polescription for those that listening that have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, so Polescription is a pole dance subscription box. It's for pole dancers who want to be motivated about their training. So we all know how it goes, like especially someone like me who's been doing pole for a long time, you're not always motivated all the time. And I think, subscription boxes are a great little treat for yourself each month. Like I'm subscribed to a business one. I love it. I don't necessarily love everything in that box that I get, but I just love having like a little present rock up. And I'm like,
sometimes it's nice to just receive something. Sometimes I buy things off eBay and then when you get them, it's just the getting them is the exciting part. And then you're like, oh, okay.
So
it's just my Moroccan oil.
Here's one I prepared earlier.
Yes.
So here's the box and it says Pole Motivation Delivered. So basically it comes with products that will make you motivated about your training. Each box features a different pole idol, and I work with that pole idol to sort of talk about what products might go into that box, and you get a poster of them. You can collect all the posters. It'd be really nice kind of frame them on the wall.
Set up in your pole room.
Yeah, in your pole room.
Yeah. So this one, I'll show you in it. Yes. I was lucky I had it sitting right there. So the first one is Amy Hazel.
Oh, yay.
Stunning.
So you get a welcome message from her, and she filmed an exclusive tutorial. So each one does that. And then on the back, I put QR codes so you can have a little watch party to her performances.
That's awesome.
that's cool.
Some of her performances. She also did a discount for her contortion course. So you can do that. And then the poster of her is really, really nice. They're all black and white, so they all match when you
I love that.
and they're signed.
Stunning.
Yeah.
So you get a signed poster, you get like a nutritious protein ball snack thing, little motivational item just to be in there, and then you get the training products. So I had these especially made for this. So they're pole dice. So one has got the exercise, and then the other one's got like the reps or the amount of time. So you just roll them and
That makes me
so
anxious.
everyone's very excited about those.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah, I was like,
that
have you
didn't
tried,
teach you pulling
have you
them
tried
out.
all combinations of those? There's not a combination that'll be like iron X hold for 10 minutes.
No, I tried them all, and you heard it here first. Now I'm developing stretching dice because people are so excited about these ones.
Yes.
Ooh.
And then there's this one, which you might have to look on my Instagram or on the Polescription Instagram to see, but it's like a door stretcher. So you hang it over the door and you can work on your flexibility. So you can do that at home.
That's cool.
It's very, very cool. So, yeah, you get that each month. But in addition to this, the Pole Idol gives me one of their favorite playlists, like a Spotify playlist. So you get that. So you got a new playlist every single month. There's
Really cool.
weekly motivational text messages. You get monthly challenges. We've got a Facebook group where like people are in there every day actually talking about stuff. So just, being accountable for your goals. And
How did you think of this? How did you come up with it? And all these things to go in?
problem solution. Like people get, lose motivation about their training. This is something that you get each month. Like straight away, you're like, I want to try those dice. And then you're doing strength all of a sudden. So yeah, it's just,
I think it's a little
make
touches.
things that I want.
Yeah. I think it's a little touches like the group community is obviously super important, and we've seen that in our industry, but like you get a new playlist every month. Like making a playlist on Spotify can be very time consuming at times. So like
I still need to make a new one for my warm up. Like every week I'm like, sorry guys, and I still haven't made a new one.
Yes.
It's those little things I think that I wasn't aware were like a part of the box, which I think is really, really cool.
And like the QR codes to like Amy Hazel's performances, like how easy you're just there. It's just like, so like you could Google or YouTube, but it's just you scan.
Takes so much longer.
It's right there. So it just, it takes.
Curated. Ready
it is. That is very smart.
So when you got this idea, so you're like, cool, I want something for motivation. Like, how did you make all the decisions to go with that? Other than just making something that you really, really want.
Yeah. So I wanted to do a pole dance subscription box because I like that. I knew it would go well. And I think, and there is one, there are a couple around the world. One mainly is Pole Box in the UK. I don't know if they ship worldwide, but they're over there. They're doing a good job. Their box is a little bit different to ours. It's a lower price point, so obviously the products and things depend on like what you're paying for the box. So yeah, I thought that it would be great to have one, especially based in Australia. And then I just started listing all the things that I was like, oh, I'd love to get that in the box and this and that. And I had so much stuff. I was like, yeah, this will definitely work. Like I won't run out of ideas. But then I was like, I need like a theme each month to tie it together. And then I was like, oh my God, especially with COVID and the years going by, like I mention people's names like Amy Hazel, and some people are like, who's that? I'm like, what do you mean? And then I realized like there's this whole new generation of polers that don't know the old generation of polers who I'm personally acquainted with, that I can easily message and say, hey, can I feature you this month in the box? Which would bring, more people to see what they're doing. Like more people, hopefully, who don't know who Amy is are going to be interested in her journey now, which is great for her. And it's great for us because we get to like, pay tribute each month to these people who have really shaped the industry. And I'm just so excited. I've tried to like make like the second pole idol. It's a complete like totally different end of the spectrum to Amy.
Oh,
you can
I'm
probably
intrigued.
guess who it is. I haven't revealed it yet.
Pressure's on.
The clues that I've given out so far, I'm trying to remember. The first one was show off.
Yeah.
The first thing that comes to my mind is chili.
Chili,
box.
yeah. I like, we need to get this episode out. Like, that's, we actually have been talking to her about coming on the podcast too.
Oh my God, perfect timing.
Yes.
Well, yeah, you heard it here. Well, when does this come out?
Either next week or the week after. We haven't decided. When are you
so
planning
I
on
will
announcing
I'll be announcing her in the next week. So it's probably really good timing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, it is chili, and I'm so excited because her playlist.
box.
Oh, so good. Her tutorial is like, you're in there with chili. And then everything in the box is like, I won't give it away, but I based it around like that kind of showgirl / a confidence booster box.
Ooh,
That's
I
awesome.
love it.
I guess because I'm just thinking now, obviously the Amy Hazel box, and it's got that stretching thing, and she's very super bendy and flexy. Like that's all. It's all like that was cool. I really like that.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the next one after that is a totally different again. She's an international, so I won't reveal that.
Yeah, that's okay. We won't poke you for that.
We'll let that one be.
Is it monthly, did you say? Or how?
Yeah, it's monthly.
Yeah. Okay.
And what is your price point?
So you can sign up month to month, which means you can cancel anytime. You can sign up for 6 months, or you can sign up for 12 months. If you sign up for 12 months, it's $71 a month, and that includes your shipping
Nice. That's
in
not bad.
Australia.
Yeah.
6 months is $75 a month, and that includes shipping. And then month to month is $79.
Yeah.
So you get it cheaper if you sign up for 12 months.
Of course, yeah. But those things in it are well and truly worth the value, and not having to think about it and just be like, this thing shows up on my doorstep and I get a little present to myself.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's better than a wine subscription because you're not doing anything productive with that.
I'm like, I don't know, wine subscription's pretty good.
It is. Wine's pretty good too.
It is good. There's a difference.
These are all the subscribers.
Oh, that's so good.
That's amazing.
Yeah, for this one.
Oh, what happened there?
Cancel. Oh,
she's ruined your wall.
I know.
So, what do the different colours mean? Is that mean anything?
The
different memberships.
So orange is 12-month subscriptions. Pink is. Oh, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, pink is 6 months and green is month to month.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's 110 up there.
That's amazing. Like, that's your first month too.
Yeah, I know.
Is that how did you expect it to drop? Like, are you like on par with what you expected, or were you a little bit unsure of how it would land?
I was like, if I get 50, I'm going to be wrapped. If I get 100, I'm going to be like, and then when we got 100, I was so happy. But I'm hoping for 1,200 within a year.
Yes.
Wow.
You got this.
That's cool.
We shall see.
Yeah.
You're going to have to buy some more Post-it notes.
Yeah, you might need a better membership sticker system.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll keep doing that. The whole room will be done.
That'd be interesting. Not that big. Just put it all out there.
The journey of the membership names.
Steph loves her Post-it notes as well.
I do love my Post-it notes. However, I've now got a whiteboard because we just moved into a new house. I ended up getting the wardrobe in the study white glass. So now I've got white glass on my wardrobe. So I just put everything on there and it's very full. So
yeah, nice. Love that.
So when you started this business, like, because one of our questions for you was like, how do you start a pole business without breaking the bank? Like, because there's obviously a lot of upfront costs. Like, was this a huge upfront cost? Oh, you don't, maybe I shouldn't ask that question if you don't want to disclose that. But like,
oh no, that's all right.
Going back to
do
the question.
Do you mean Polescription or the grip or the clothes or
well, we'll
just start with Polescription.
Yeah, we'll start there because we're on that topic.
So Polescription, I guess it depends how many boxes you're going to make available as to how you...
Did you have a cap?
200 I got of the first box. So I've done a couple competition winners, plus I had a few sold just as one-off boxes separately to the membership, just as like one of the studio owners was like, oh, I want to do it as a prize for our student of the month kind of thing.
Oh, it's a great idea.
Yeah, it is actually, because we were thinking about it. I was like, oh, $71 a month for a studio, and you could get the box delivered to your studio and use it as like a incentive or a giveaway each month for the student who like tags you the most on social media, or like it's very cheap advertising if you're going to use it as like its own advertising thing. So a few like that, which means I'll probably have about 80 available. But what I've done now is if people are signing up now, they'll be signing up for the March box, which is the Chili Rocks box. Got a nice ring to it.
It does.
But they also have the option to add on the Amy Hazel box until it's sold out.
Yeah.
So if people, so I'll keep it on there until they're all gone. But a lot of people have asked about like buying the door stretcher separately or the dice separately, but it would be cheaper just to buy the box, because the door stretcher is going to be like 45 and the dice are 25. Yeah. So already that's 70.
You're almost at the box. Yeah.
You might as well just get there.
Isn't that funny though, when you start like with something and you're like, here's this package, and they're like, oh, like I like it, but I want this. And you've got to just like try not to get excited by we'll offer this separately and we'll offer this, because then you just make your business so much more complex.
I probably will put them on separately. Like I've already ordered more dice because I know that's going to be a huge seller. Yeah. And the site, we already sell all the clothing and everything. So we have a lot of SKUs anyway. It's not difficult to add the things on. And I'm all about not making barriers at all for people to entry. So if they, like, I just make it super easy. Like if someone orders the wrong size, or they get some shorts and they're like, oh, I don't know if I like them or whatever, I just change them. I don't make it hard. I just, this has only happened once out of all the tens of thousands of grips that we've sold, but someone was like, oh, I don't like it, doesn't work for me. I was like, okay, I'll, give you a refund. Like it just, it's not, I think that it's very easy these days to just make things easy for your customers, especially when it's online. There needs to be trust that they're like, I'm going to give you my money and I'm not in a shop to take the thing with me right now. So I need to trust that if something goes wrong, you're going to be there for me. So I take a lot of pride in the customer service, like above and beyond, I think.
And that's a really important part of business, I think.
Customer experience, and why that is very much becoming a buzzword these days.
Ooh, yeah.
My husband actually works in customer experience, so I definitely hear a lot of it. But customer experience is so important. Like you have to build trust. You need them to feel, I was listening to one thing who's like, when you have somebody come in, you want to make them feel like your best friend. Like your customer service should be personal enough that they feel like they've just made a new friend. But yeah, it's definitely a trending element. But I think it's something that definitely gets missed a lot. People can't put themselves into their customer's shoes, or I wouldn't say they can't do it. I think they can. They get distracted by all the other things of running a business, the finances, the operations, and focusing in on who these people are is very important.
Yeah, for me, I have been really fortunate to be able to be in lots of the different shoes. So, when I was traveling around overseas, like teaching workshops as a Poleprenuership, whatever, I could really appreciate everything from the studio owner's point of view, because that's me too. Whereas sometimes I would feel like if we got people here to teach, pole people to teach, sometimes they wouldn't really understand like how much work the studio has gone to advertise and to take the bookings and do all of that. So I've had a unique position like my whole career of being on all sides of the coin, and definitely with the customer, like everything has to be thought of on the other end of it. So if I'm sending you like your grip, right, and the display, I'm thinking about, all right, so when they open the box, like what are they going to see first? Where does the note need to go that it's not going to get like cut when they open the box? And then that's why I added in the hex paper underneath the padding, because I was like, oh, the straw, like the wood wool stuff is going through and it's like getting all over the grips, and it's a bit annoying because then the studio owners, like they take it out and they've got that. So I added the hex paper and then more padding. And then when sending the displays, I was like, well, that needs to be in its own bag, because if it's stuck to all the other stuff, it's not going to be very good. And then even with Polescription, I'm thinking about when you open it, like the first thing you see, I didn't have it in here. You should see my packing station this morning, because I knew we had this interview. I was like, I need a hustle, because I've already been to the post office. I've already taken 100 of them down there. I've got about 20 to go. And I've just been like, I've even been timing myself to try to keep myself like doing the boxes in a certain amount of time. But yeah, thinking about when they open the box, is the paper lined up? Is the sticker where it should be and straight? And what are they going to see first? And when they take the things out of the box, what's the experience that they have, and how do they feel about the brand when they get it? I don't know if I overthink it, probably.
No, I was just going to say the how you feel about it. Everyone will always remember how you feel about something, or how they feel about something. And I think that, like, in terms of, running your own business or creating a business in pole, you do have to really tap into how is someone going to feel about this? How is their experience of, like you said, because, if it's from a pair of shorts to some grip, the Polescription is like, what, it's exciting to open something. So it's like when you open it, people will want to film it, people will want to share it. Like that's the sort of experience that people want, and then they'll want to use it.
I think about it, and I've said this to Renee many of times, like every time I walk into my studio, I'm trying to have a beginner mindset, because I know how self-conscious, because we're female only, I know how self-conscious women can be about walking in. So I'm like, if it was me and I was super nervous and I just wanted to like self-sabotage myself and be like, look, I tried it, but it's not right, I would be like, oh, like, is it clean? Is it not set up right? Like, it just, you don't know who that person's going to be who walks through the door, and what their own underlying maybe insecurities could be, or thoughts, or they want to do it, but they're not sure. So I'm with you. Like, I think, I think about the way the studio smells, the way the studio looks, like how
the way the metho bottles are facing.
The color of the metho. Oh, yeah.
No,
I had been told to calm down a little bit, but that's, I'm with you.
It makes sense. It does make sense in the full scheme of things. When you pick on one little thing at a time, it is.
They pick on the.
It's funny. Like you make it, but like it's honestly, it makes all the difference.
It does. It's being welcoming, right? Like it's exactly the same as opening a subscription box. It's what do you want them to think and feel when they do that?
Yeah, especially for they're all so excited. Like they're emailing me going, I am so excited for this box. And I'm like, the pressure. Like, and the fact that so many people have signed up to 12 months and I didn't even have a box out yet. Like there wasn't even anything to show them yet. And they've gone, I trust you. I'm going to sign up for a year.
Wow.
That's a huge commitment.
Year.
Yeah. Like you're like, well, I got to get going on a year's worth of boxes.
Don't worry, guys, I won't disappoint. But it's that trust. Like people will trust that when they walk into your studio, they're going to have a certain experience, and that is franchising, a promise made across locations.
Yeah,
that's
100%.
it. So, and believe me, that's been a journey in itself to try to bring that together across such far distances.
Yeah, because the other thing is like you're trusting people with your brand as well. So like you are extending your brand to people with goodwill in the hopes that they continue to represent your brand and your values and your missions the way you would represent your brand, value, or missions.
Yeah, exactly right. But I actually didn't answer your question before.
Yeah, I know. We got off track.
Sorry, I went off track.
Happens all the time.
About starting a business. So I know possibly some people listening to this are thinking about starting a pole business or brand, or maybe someone like yourself who already has a business, a studio, might be thinking about like, oh, I could add this or do that. So I would say the first thing is to get validation for your product or whatever it is. Don't go and spend $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 and hope that people buy it. You have to know that people will buy it. So you can start off with zero money and just survey everybody that you know, everybody in your studio, and go like, hey, I was thinking about doing this. Would you buy this? So, for example, what I did with the Smoove shorts, because that was a huge risk for me.
Oh, yeah.
So the Smoove shorts, if the listeners don't know, first in the world, they're period underwear combined with pole shorts in the one, and you've got an all-in-one solution. So you can't tell that they're period shorts. They look amazing. They're high-waisted. They've got all the layers to, like, pull the moisture away from your body so you don't feel, like, the feedback. I'm so happy because I spent so much money on those. Anyway, and I'm tweaking them as we go, so they can always be better. But what I did was I knew when I came up with that idea, it was literally like a light bulb moment. Like I knew, I was like, oh, like, I gasped and I was like, oh, like, oh my God. And I remember feeling anxious that I didn't have them in my hands already. I was like, oh my God, like, why is it taking so long? I came up with this idea 3 minutes ago.
Yeah.
There it wasn't there. So what I did was I called, because I'm pretty, when you're doing it all the time and you know your students and you know your customers and you know your audience, you've got your finger on the pulse and you kind of know if you're about to start a business, you'll do this a bit differently to what I did. But all I had to do was I called up a few of my friends, studio owners, students, whatever, and I explained the product very basically in like one sentence, and then I shut my mouth and I waited. I knew I'd be able to tell by their response if it was a good idea, because this was the response that I got. They were like, oh, yes. And I was like, I knew it. Instead of, you don't want to get the response like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want that. So what I would do is, if you're going to start a brand, and think of it as a brand, don't think of it as a business. Like, the brand has to have its own identity. It's got its own colors and feel and experience and font and way of talking. It's got its own tone. So if you're going to do that, survey, as many people as you can and go, this is my idea. Would you buy it? If they say yes, get an idea of what they might pay for that, so that you know if you're like way off track or whatever. And then order just a minimum order. I don't know what it's called. Minimum viable product.
Yeah.
MVP. This is how I would do it. I don't have a degree in business, but yeah. So I would get in a minimum amount and I would give that to people. So this is what we did with the grip. We got it in just plain tubes. I gave it to some of the studio owners, like the PhysiPole studio owners. And I said, give this to your students, but don't tell them it's from me. Don't tell them anything. Just say, try this grip. Tell us what you think. Because if they knew it was from me, they might be more likely to be like, oh, yeah, it's good. Like, you did a good job or something. I wanted them to be like brutally honest. And when I got the feedback, we knew that it was going to work because they were like raving about it. And so then we jumped in. We ordered 10,000 tubes straight away, which was a big order for us at the time. And then within 5 weeks, Sam and I were like, we're going to sell out, like, before we can get more. So then we ordered 20,000, then another 20,000, and then we ordered like 140,000 because we knew we couldn't keep up. It sold that fast, and it's still like, now we're fine. We're ahead of it. But it sells so fast, especially with like a lot of the online stores. We're sending 500 at a time over to them.
It's insane.
Yeah. I think, though, you make extremely valid points. Like, you just need to throw it out there and you need to test it. How can you, and if it's service-based, like to your point of starting with your 8X stages, like that was probably a pretty substantial upfront cost, but it was probably one of the cheapest ways you could test that at the point in time.
It was all my savings, but it was.
Yeah, and you just need to, if it's a service and it's like especially because a lot of stuff is going online these days, how can you make it as quick and dirty, I'm going to use, as possible to see if people like the content?
Yeah, I think that's something, I know so many people, they're like, I want to do this, but I need to get this right first. Just remember, done is better than perfect. Just get it done. The content doesn't have to be filmed on a perfect phone or whatever. Like, just content is better than it being perfectly polished content. Like, they say this about podcasts. And I mean, while it's great to have a really good quality mic, people will listen if the content is good. If you've got a scratchy mic, they're still going to listen. So it's the same with your business. Like, just start. Oh my God, you should see the first grip tube. It's shocking. I don't have one here. But so this thing here is called an eye mark.
Yeah.
The machine needs to see that to seal it flat in the middle. The eye mark was wrong and they all sealed off center. That was one. The second thing was, I didn't realize that they weren't compostable. I didn't realize that. And on the back of the tube, it had like, it can go in the compost. And then when I realized, like a week after we released them, I was like, oh my God, it can't go in the compost. Like, it's biodegradable, but that's not the same as compostable. Didn't know that. So I'm there stickering 10,000 tubes. I put a Sharpie over it and then I had stickers made. And this little thing This flame symbol, they forgot to tell me that I had to have it on the thing. And then the chemists were like, oh, you can't sell a product with ethanol in it if it doesn't have the flame symbol. So I'm stickering 10,000 flames on these bloody things. Oh, I'm so happy to see the
story is there is 1,000, I'm going to do it, what the fuck moments that happen in business, and you just have to do what you can do. And like, you've got to ride the wave, because
you got to hustle.
Do you think that was, I was just going to ask, what was your biggest business fail? Like, or if you want to share, was that one of them? It's just like, obviously you're learning along the way, and it's like, you know, who knows what you don't know? Like, you don't know what you don't know until it comes up or until there's an issue. And then you're like, oh, I need to have these little flame symbols on this.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying just start. Like, it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. Just start and fix it as you go. Because the saying is, if you're not embarrassed by your first product, you launched too late.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if you're thinking about doing it, go for it. Start it with the minimum amount of money that you can, get that validation, and then make more, and then make more. And like, for example, the boxes for Polescription, these boxes, which I also messed up because they were meant to be, that was meant to be white, but I didn't realize when you print it onto this brown, like that anything white prints clear. So now it's like brown instead of white, but it kind of like it does match with the brand and stuff on it. It's not the biggest mistake, but that was like last week's one. And those boxes are costing me about $4 each at the moment from ink packaging. And that is expensive. So what will happen is, as I figure out exactly what I want and the size and everything, I'll be able to buy in bulk, which is what we did with like our Enviro grip boxes and stuff. Once you figure it out, you can buy in bigger quantities and get better prices, and you'll increase your profit margin. But at the beginning, I wouldn't be too worried about your profit. Like, be worried about your profit margin, but know that like some things that I start, I'm like, okay, well, the profit margin will get better as we go further. So like the tubes, and even we fill these now. We bought the filling machine. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have actually. I think I've seen it on TikTok.
We bought the machine that like fills these and it goes around. It's so cool. That was a huge investment, but now just to get that filled, I can't remember what they used to charge. It was like a couple of dollars per squirt. And it was costing, like, over the long term, costs a lot of money. Whereas if we invest, because we know that the business is not going anywhere, and we invest in that, it does increase those margins, so you can eventually get more profitable. If you don't have any money to start, if you've got like $100 and you want to start a pole brand, try print on demand, because it's the easiest like barrier to entry. So do you want me to summarize it? Like,
so
print on demand is basically where you sell items like t-shirts or mugs or anything like that with a print on them. You would choose something pole related. The thing is, you have to have a good design. So you can use programs like Printify. That is a print on demand service. So you have Printify over here, and then you have Shopify over here, which is your storefront for your customers. Customers go to the storefront, they look at your designs, they choose which one they want, and as soon as they purchase, it sends the order to Printify, who prints that item on demand. So the medium-sized t-shirt with the design on it. Then you can use Canva to make your designs. The only trick about this is you have to design things that people actually want. So
you got to do your research to know what people want.
Yeah, so this would be easy. You just go into Canva, create some designs, and then show them to people. Be like, hey, which one do you like? Would you buy that on a t-shirt or whatever? Because pole dancers like to represent. So that's 100%. Probably a really easy one to start under $100.
Yeah,
awesome.
Definitely.
That's some great advice. And I really like what you're saying about is like, it's okay to fail, and the fact that you like made a small mistake. Obviously, it's not too bad, but like last week. So whereas we look at you and a lot of people look at you like, oh, you are like up here, like you are this a badass businesswoman that knows everything and that just has everything together. But it's good to know that like you're still making little mistakes here and there, but you're smart about it because you have these boxes and you do them in smaller quantities until you know what you want. So I think that's
a
really
thousands.
better than 10,000, but but you know what I mean. So it is having little strategic things in there as well as not worrying too much and letting yourself fail to learn.
Yeah, and I think that's the important part of all of this is when you go do something like pre this, like you have obviously made stock, but you started with a pole business. The first time you brought pants, you would have been like, what the hell do I do with this? Like, how do I do it? And you build your own systems and your own processes.
Yeah.
But we have done a lot of business chatting. Is there anything you want to say before we sum up the episode?
I think just if you are thinking about, going for an idea, just do it because you'll regret not doing it. And you have to just not be afraid to fail. I think that's a huge thing. People just get hung up on like, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? So what? Do something else. Like try again. Yeah. I fail every day in some way. Like, but the thing is about me, I'm not afraid to fail. So it removes that entire barrier. Like I do things that a lot of people don't even try to do. Funny thing is I'm just like an average person. I'm just not, I'm very focused and dedicated on what I'm doing, but I'm also not afraid to fail. So all of that combined means I just kind of, there's also like a flow state, I think, that you get into with things like this. Like you were asking me, how'd I come up with the ideas for the boxes and how did it come together? I just kind of got into this flow state where I was like, and it'd be cool to feature a pole idol on each one. And what if the products, like some of them like related back to that one and the idol could pick the nutritious snack so that it's like tied in with that. So everything builds. It's the same as when I create a routine. It starts off like a piece of not good stuff. And it starts terribly. And I was saying this in the Polescription Facebook group, actually. I was live with them yesterday just talking about when we're preparing for performances. It was a different tip. But when you just do something, like just make it really basic, just put some kind of choreography or put something there, you can always improve it later. It's when there's nothing there, you're still at square one because at least if you've got... Think of it like a cake, right? If you've got the sponge there, at least you've got something to work with. And then you add a layer and you're like, that looks a bit better. And then you're like, now that that's already there and I'm used to seeing that, I could add this. Yeah. But it's when you don't put anything there at all.
I'm trying to think about the end.
Yeah, and you end up with something very basic. So just start things. And like even with the box, the playlist wasn't an idea until later because I was like, all these people have totally different styles. Like Chili's playlist is going to be so much fun. Amy's is going to be like really like nice and fulfilling and all that sort of thing. So all these ideas kind of came later. The weekly text messages, I just asked the guys in the group, I was like, hey, do you want a text message every Monday to like kick off your week? So just start.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to start.
100%. I think that sums it up really nicely because I think anything in business is, sometimes you just got to take that leap of faith and start small and just build. But thank you so much for joining us today to talk all things business and entrepreneurship. We probably got off track, but it was all great discussion. So if people want to find you on social media, where can they find you?
Yeah. So if you want to follow me, it's just Kristy Sellars with an ARS. Some people put ERS, but I'm pretty much on all of the platforms just under that name. So on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, just under that name. Then Polescription has its own Instagram and TikTok, which blew up really fast overnight, by the way. It's crazy.
TikTok is such a crazy world.
Yeah. And then
another discussion.
Enviro Group also has its own handles, and the Enviro.co has its own handles, and PhysiPole too. But you'll be finding each location if you look.
Find her everywhere.
Yeah, she's just all over the social media platforms. Well, guys, if you are